Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Bhakti Vedanta Swamin. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavari Paschatya Deshatarine. Paschatya Deshatarin Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Go back to Vrindavan.
Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasade Go Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasade Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasade Go Bhakta Vrinda.
Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasade Go Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Jai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Nitya Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol,
Nitya Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Nitya Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Jai Vishnu Balaram Bari Bharakacharya Stutara Satsa Siman A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Kori Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Brahmsgo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gogopa Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dhamaturidam Dhokadam Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the some of the devotees, all glories to some of the devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Get my water. Okay, Hari Bol. I'd like to start by kind of saying that Srila Prabhupada has no beginning and no end, so his pastimes are unlimited also. And he shared those pastimes with some of his, or basically all of his thousands of disciples, his surrendered souls that came here to assist him. So in some way or other, he related with everybody and gave them something special that made them feel they were very special. So with me, there was quite a bit of it. So, you know, it never went to my head that I'm the chosen one, like it did some other people. But at the same time, I will kind of go through my history and how I came to be the one that went out to develop this, build Mayapur buildings and a Bombay temple, which was quite a feat, and basically the only one doing it. If we hadn't worked the way we did, it would not have been accomplished in the short period. Ultimately, Srila Prabhupada's desire would have been done by somebody, but I was sent in this world for that purpose, and that's what I did on his order. So I'll just explain. In the beginning of my Krishna conscious life, I had just come back from Vietnam. I was 19 and I had just turned 20. I was 19 in Vietnam and I just was 20 years old in 2 months when I came back. So, you know, nothing to do, didn't want to go. I come from San Francisco, so all my school friends were now faking college just so they didn't have to go to work. And smoking dope, and well, you know, when I was young, we used to take LSD. Being from San Francisco, at 15, we were taking that. Nobody even knew about it then. But anyway, so I went to the Family Dog one night. If anybody knows what the Family Dog is, there were two prime rock places. One was the Fillmore Auditorium, the other was the Family Dog down at the beach. So that evening, this van pulled up, and I'm standing there with this guy that was my friend in Vietnam and some girl that was after me that I had no interest in, but we were going inside to see, I think it was Eric Burton and Country Joe and the Fish or something like that. And this van pulls up and these people jump out. It was extraordinary. What a sight. Bald heads, cold down at the beach, cold wind, no chudders, no jackets, no shoes, flip-flops. And then I thought I was pretty far out until I saw them, you know. And then one of them gave me a magazine. He said, you can give a donation. So I gave him like $1 or something. And, you know, I'd taken some peyote. You know, then I was like, what are we going to do with this book? I can't carry this around all night. So I very nicely set it next to the building and went in. And when I'm in there, all you can hear is the chanting because it hadn't started. And I was like, would they shut up, these people? My God, you know. But a week later, one devotee, Annie Bruda, maybe somebody knows him. He is one of the 1966 devotees from 2nd Avenue. He had fallen away, and I was living on Baker Street next to the Panhandle in Haight-Ashbury, and he was on I was in this really nice one where the fireplace was, my room. They were all separate rooms, and I'd go upstairs to the communal kitchen up on the top floor, and I heard this mumbling and smelt this smell, and I knocked on his door. I said, what are you doing? And I don't know who he was. And then I saw this picture of Srila Prabhupada, and I just like pushed him aside and barged into his room. And I said, who is that? He said, he knows everything. And I said, where can I meet him? I want to meet this person. He said, told me where the temple was. It was about 5-6 blocks away on Frederick Street. And they have a program on Sunday, and I went. So Jayananda was my first real devotee, and he was at the door. And there's a lot of stories, which I don't want to, I have a lot to say, but anyway, I got in. This Sunday later, I shaved up. You know, I came every day and, you know, shaved up. I think I had like $6,000 or $7,000, and I just gave it. And I was a record collector, so I had 600-700, you know, jazz, you know, rock, blues, you know, anything but Elvis Presley or the Beatles. I didn't have any of that, you know. So I gave the keys to my apartment, and I had a pound of opium that I'd sent from Vietnam in one of those elephants, you know, that we put the Tulsi plant on. And I taped it, and when I got home, my mother said, you got a package, and I'd totally forgotten about it. And I went in there and I said, oh my God. But when I got back home, there was no need for that stuff. But since Vietnam was a crazy place, kind of like, you know, everything you've seen about movies. So I gave him the pound, and I think Annie Ruda took that. And anyway, as I was there, then I was working very hard and going every day on the street, 6-8 hours. That's what we did, chanting in the, you know, and up till midnight then, because Hair, that rock, whatever it was playing, and we'd stay till they came out. We'd collect more money in that 15 minutes when they would come out than we did on North Beach all evening. So then I went over to Berkeley with Jayananda because they needed somebody, and you know, Jayananda took me with him. And then we had no money, so I had to go out and sell incense. And I made all these incense accounts going into malls as a devotee in 1970. Out in suburbia, that wasn't so easy. In the city, nobody looked twice, but out there. And then I decided to come to India. So I heard about what was going on, and then I came and went to Mumbai. And then in Mumbai, Prabhupada came the first time. He had been checked at the airport. They quarantined him for having yellow fever. He didn't have a yellow fever shot. So Sham Shunder made a big noise about it with the customs people, the health officials. Do you know who he is? And like this, and the next thing you know, there was a big noise, and then they told Srila Prabhupada, we have to take you. And then Prabhupada turned to Sham Shunder and he said, if you'd have just been nice and polite, he would have let us gone. But you had to be argumentative. So that was our mercy, that he was in this house out in Andheri, and nothing around there but a bunch of shrubs and stuff. And we got to sit with him all day, and he would tell stories, Mahabharata and stuff, and up till midnight like that. So the doctor came on the third day, and he told the doctor, he said, I have appointments, I have things to do, I must leave now. And the doctor said, yes, but you may have a yellow fever. We have to wait 7 days. And Srila Prabhupada said, I cannot get any disease. And the doctor said, you cannot? He said, no, I cannot get any disease. He said, when you put the iron in the fire, it becomes fire. He said, when you're purely Krishna conscious, you can't get any disease. So the doctor signed him off. So, then he was staying in Mumbai a lot, and we had the deities there, the ones that are in Bombay right now, Rasa Bihari. They were in the living room. We were in an apartment on 7th floor. It's ironic that the war happened with Pakistan, and the Pakistan-India embassy was on the 2nd floor, and we were on the 7th floor. So just to see how everything, progressed very, sweetly. I'm an innocent kid. I didn't know much. And Srila Prabhupada, we couldn't play music for Mangal Arti because it's an apartment building. We'd play a tape. Srila Prabhupada would usually come out. And one day he came out. And one of his, I don't know which one, we'd play one of his bhajans. And he was looking at Radha Rasa Bihari, and the tears were flowing so much that there was a puddle on the floor. I'm serious. There was a small puddle. And I sat there like a dog looking at a steak, And as soon as he turned around, I jumped on those puddles. And the other devotees didn't seem to know, I got some. So, Prabhupada would, my service was to put his chandan on in the morning. So I'd make the chandan and go in his room as the sun rose and put it on his head. And I'd ask him the stupidest stuff, Srila Prabhupada, do you ever think of your Guru Maharaj? Prabhupada, he was very kind. He said, I'm always feeling the presence of my spiritual master. And then a couple of days after doing that, he looked at me and said, you don't like me, do you? And I said, yes, Prabhupada, I like you. He said, then why are you hitting me? I was putting it on like that, So Prabhupada personally trained me, and he told me he would. So all the ways he did it was very very scientifically, spiritually, not too much, a little here, a little there. He would show me a little opulence of his, spiritual opulence. It's like we walk in the morning. And he did this many times. We have to remain a fool. That's the first principle of a neophyte, especially us hard-headed Westerners who think we're smarter than everybody else, that we don't know anything, and we still don't know anything, and whatever we do know is his blessings, so it's not ours to claim. So he would ask me things like, what's that grass doing growing in the crack? Well, I don't know. Everything was I don't know, and then he wouldn't answer me. He wouldn't answer it. There was a statue by the beach in Madras, this guy on a horse Who's that guy on a horse? I don't know. Everything was I don't know. He was making me understand that I don't know, you know. So let's see where we went from there. So anyway, the thing was this. I went to Mayapur. We went for the first Gurpurnim, but there weren't Western devotees. It was only the Indian devotees. And we were poor. I mean, so poor. We had no money. You know, Jai Bhataka was so cheap, you know, he'd give us 2 rupees to go out there all day and put up posters. We'd make our own paste with flour and go out there and slap it up wherever we could. 2 rupees, you know, we'd get some bananas and some boiled peanuts or something and come back, and they were throwing stuff at us. The Indian news had come out and said we were CID or CIA agents. They'd come by, yank our sikas, throw stuff at us, spit at us. You know, it was very, it wasn't very nice. And even on the train, they would sometimes gather around me, or, you know, it'd be a few of us, and like, you know, ready to kill us. So anyway, then I went. I went back to Mumbai, and then I heard Prabhupada's coming to Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada's coming to Vrindavan. So that's the videos you see where he went to Nandagram and took a bath in Jamuna and took us. So I asked Madhuvisa, who was the president. I said, Madhuvisa, I want to go. He said, no, you have to collect. We don't have any money. I said, yeah, but Prabhupada in Vrindavan, this is the chance of a lifetime. He said, no. So I went anyway. Me and Rishi Kumar got a train. I had jaundice too. I got a train to, I thought, I've been drinking a lot of coconuts in Mumbai, and so I'm on the train going to Delhi, and it's January, and I'm wondering why it's getting cold and where are the coconuts, and there wasn't any. And then we land in Mathura, it's freezing cold. We get to Vrindavan, and we didn't know what to do. So, because people were chastising us. If you wanted like a lassie, they'd make you stand back 3 feet and throw it to you. We were so untouchable. And we were scared to make a mistake. So I wanted to take a bath in the Jamuna, and so I watched these sadhus for like 20 minutes to make sure I didn't do anything wrong, And then Srila Prabhupada came, and, I think Yadubar got married then at that time. And my point I'm getting to is, then I was with Prabhupada in his room a lot, and I'd always sit there and listen to him, the heavyweight champion of the world, watch how he just took these people apart, but without destroying them, and he'd be so sweet. So then I figured he had this inner circle that was like, Shyam Shunder, the older guys were there, and then I started figuring, well, Tamal took sannyas. That's the point. He took sannyas, and he took me with him, and we went to Ahmedabad. And Prabhupada didn't want to give him sannyas, but he kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And Prabhupada, like a little kid, he finally relented. And then 2 months later, he got back into management. But we went there, and we went to Bihar and drove all over the place, doing programs. So then Srila Prabhupada wanted me and Tamal to go to Bangladesh. And he went to get a visa, but he went in his dhoti, war going on, East Pakistan, and all Muslims, and he's going to walk in there in a dhoti. So then he tried to go to Delhi to do it and wear karmi clothes. So I'm in Mayapur, and I'm thinking I get away from this guy. And I got to go do something to get Prabhupada's attention. Because that's how you got close to him, is you got his attention. He just didn't, buddy up to you. You had to do something extraordinary. So I'm in Mayapur, and Srila Prabhupada came, and he wanted R&R, rest and recuperation, for 2 days. And we had a bamboo fence built around his room. All there was that single house now, his Bhajan Kutir. So there was a little bamboo fence around it, and he would lay out there. He'd get a massage. I don't remember who his masseuse was, or his servant. And nobody bothering him, didn't give class. And so then when he's leaving, I'm like really upset. What do I got to do here? And I knew I had to go do something, and I was thinking in my head, I'd seen, because I was in Mumbai for the first 8 months, and when I got there in the temple, all I'm used to do is chanting on the street in America. And there was no chanting allowed. Prabhupada didn't want to do it in the beginning. And I said, well, what's my service? And they handed me a phone book. It said, go make life members. I said, well, where do I find them? In the phone book, start calling people. And you know, you open up and it is about 100 pages of Patels and a bunch of Shahs and a bunch of Guptas. It's like, what is this? So, but I did all right. And my area was Kulbadevi, Bombay 9. And Bombay 9 was, steel and spices, and so I always saw the trucks that said Bangalore, Bangalore. So then I'm in Mayapur, and then I'm thinking, I'm going to go to this place called Bangalore, And then Srila Prabhupada, it was cool. He came, the car came, and he was going back to Calcutta. And I came out and put my head on his feet and was holding him. I wouldn't let go for a little bit. And then I got up, and he looked at me, and he said, there is a man in Navadvip who says he's Lord Chaitanya, and he's having a meeting today. I want you to go there and defeat him. I said, okay, no problem. So I went there, and there was a big meeting, 500 Bengalis, and I'm a brahmachari. I got my brahmachari clothes, and I get up on stage, and they all want to hear the guy, and I had a translator. I said, you're Lord Chaitanya? And he said, yes. I said, why are you so short? And like this, I had it was probably a comedy act, I just tore the guy up, and they all laughed him off the stage, and, so anyway, we did go. I got some letters from a Mr. Ravel in Calcutta. The Calcutta Prasadam was non-existent. They were going to the U.S. Embassy and getting soybean meal and mixing up soybean with water and feeding it. We called it gook. They'd plop it on the banyan leaf and plop it. No food. Seriously. So I met this man. He was a big coal merchant, Mr. Ravel, and his wife. They had Jagannath Didi. So we just show up there, and his wife would head to the kitchen. And then I made friends with, what was his name? Padma Tiwari. Anybody know Tiwari? Really? They're like the Haldirams of Calcutta. Before Haldiram came into existence, or they were big, and they have the best in North Calcutta. North Calcutta is where all the Mawaris live. And they got the big, you get the primo samosas, and his father made him a restaurant upstairs. He was a playboy, but he told us, come and you can eat anytime. So we'd go eat there, or go to Mr. Ravel's, and he gave me a letter of introduction. We got a couple cases of Ishopanishads and Gitas, and threw them on a train. And, you're not supposed to bring that stuff on a train, but we did. But when we got to Madras, and we had to take another train to Bangalore, South India is whole nother scene. They don't allow that, and it's very clean, and people are polite, and they said you can't do that. Anyway, we got him there on a train station. We had one letter. So there was 2 brahmacharis with us, Yashodananda and myself. So we go to check this letter out, and the guy's in the military. He's got chickens in his yard and a coop. And we can't stay with this guy, So we just, he said, I can't help you and we don't want to stay. I said, well, where can we stay? So he dropped us off at a Shiva temple, a little small one that's on the corner of a big city. And they had a room, and everybody peed on the wall outside. And there was no window, just some bars, and the whole room stunk of urine. And we hadn't eaten in days. So I took a walk, and I'm looking, and I saw a big fancy house. You know, the guy opens the door. I said, are you vegetarian? He says, yes, pure vegetarian. I said, we've come 12,000 miles to taste your cooking. We're very hungry. Please feed us. He said, okay. We ate there for 3 months. Every day. He had cooks up on the roof. He had a whole kitchen, not on the roof, but a top floor of his 6-story house. You know, wood fire, really, really good stuff. And we went around, you know, then we met Mr., then I saw this big house, super, way set back on this property. And we'd go by in the tuk-tuk. So I stopped one day and had a great garden. I said, we want to come inside. He said, no. And I used to wear wooden shoes. So I started stamping at his bare feet. And he was jumping back, and we went in. And long story short, I can tell you a whole bunch that happened there, but this guy was the liquor manufacturer of India. Beer factories, beer breweries, whiskey making, also, you know, 50 other products, you know, like clothes picks, carbon paper. He was a character and a half. And a funny story, though, he said, do a program. They had a room that was as big as a basketball court, like a gymnasium. And we're sitting there waiting to chant, and all these retards are walking by. This retard, that retard. And I'm wondering, is this a mental institution? What's going on here? So we start chanting, and then he turns into Krishna. He's running around with his flute and stuff. And then he takes us to eat something, and it's like a cafeteria. And what I found out was, then I found out he was the liquor baron, so then I understood in India you get instant birth and karma. And it was like cafeteria. Anyway, so we went there, and then we met Sampat Kumar Bhattacharya, who was the head of the Tulsi Mandir, and the top Brahmin for the Ramanuja Sampradaya. Oh, what a Brahmin. Srila Prabhupada loved him. We met him later. You know, very round, big head, laughing, always jolly, you know. So he said, I'll take you to Tirupati. So we went to Tirupati. And this man had, Lakshman Sai just got everything out of him. He gave us a house, you know, one of his old offices to work out of, to go make members. And he gave us a guard. I said, we don't need a guard. Yeah, he's old, I got to give him a job. So he sat there all night, and he gave us a car. He had 25 of them. So we went up to Tirupati, and then we met the trustees, and we were the first ones to know Sanskrit. We were Brahma Samhita and pronounce it properly. He taught us, you know, the proper pronunciation, and we memorized. We'd been memorizing, you know, 10 verses a week for months, you know, about a year at that point. And they were very impressed, and then they had a meeting for 5 minutes, and if we don't allow you in, it's like not letting the Kumaras into Vaikuntha, it will be cursed. So from then on, ISKCON got in, you know. And then from there, we went to Madurai, Coimbatore, you know, Trichinopoli. We did a program twice in Sri Rangam, and you know, stayed with the relative of the descendant of the one Lord Chaitanya stayed with, and went to. It can go on like this. So then, after all that stuff, in making members for a few years. I went to America and I didn't like it, but we went around. And while I was going, living in a van for 7 months, we were collecting everywhere, every city. I think we went to 40 states. The only temple that would let us come was Sri Govinda in Chicago and Mukundlal in St. Louis. And otherwise, they didn't want us around, you know, because the boys would all want to come. We were pretty fired up. So then every month I just started sending money to Vrindavan. I don't know why. I'd done it for Mayapur for the first building, and now I just, you know, we were not supposed to keep money, so I give it and give it. So then I decided I'm finished with America. I'm going to go back to India. You know, I'm speaking in India, you know, Rotary Club, Lions Club, Kiwanis Club, temples with 3, 5, 10,000 people every night, every other night. And now I got these college kids with their feet up on the desk, and all they want to know is why I got mud on my head. Going out of here. So then Karandar, I called Karandar in LA, and he says, I told him, you know, I'm in Utah. I was in San Jose. Karandar didn't want to give us any area, and so I didn't like California. I said, okay, I'm going to go new. We went to Utah, and he said, I got a letter from Srila Prabhupada. And the letter says, and he read it, you're like my senior preacher and this and that. I want you to stay in America 1 year, and send me $5,000 a month for my Vrindavan project. And, you know, 1 more day in America, no way. So I said, you tell Prabhupada I'll get him that money in 1 month, and I'm going back to India in January. And we went everywhere, D.C., Turnpike, New Jersey, all these places. We drove from Utah to Indianapolis, over, you know, 10 hours, and did that for a couple days. Went to Minneapolis, New York. I had to give you more stories there, but to get to it, I got 55,000 in that time, and brought it to Prabhupada. We took the red eye from Miami to LA. So I'm coming in, you know. I mean, so we come to see Prabhupada, and it's like 7 in the morning, and we're walking up the stairs to his room. If you've been to LA Temple, you know where Prabhupada's room is. It's upstairs. So walking up the stairs, and out comes this skinny guy, you know, and I know who he is, you know, because I had met him, and he was an elitist, and he looks at me and says, you can't go in Prabhupada's room right now, you know. And I said, yes, I can. He said, no, you can't. I said, if you don't move, you're flying, you know. And then Prabhupada comes out. Oh, you've come. So he moves aside, we go in. He tries to come in, and I just pushed him. I said, he didn't invite you, you know. I had no clothes. Prabhupada went in his drawer and gave me his chudder. That's the one in the room. He gave me his chudder because he said, why you don't have clothes? I said, I gave you all the money. I didn't buy anything for myself, you know. So then he said, I'm going to go to India. You can come with me. We're going to Hawaii. And I said, no, I don't want to go to Hawaii. I said, I'll meet you in Delhi, you know. So there's a bunch of stories there. So then we come to Vrindavan, and it's like February, it's cold, and Prabhupada's room was finished, you know, not the temple. It was still working on it. And there were little brick huts in the back, just bricks, and then more bricks in the room there with a temporary roof.
It was rendered with code.
Hmm?
It was rendered with code on inside. It's not bricks in there.
So I think that's the time George Harrison came, and you know that story? That was pretty cool. It was Bhaktisiddhanta's appearance day, and we were sitting and chanting. Very, very intimate, cold outside, maybe 10 of us in the room, And Prabhupada was in a really, really mellow mood, so George walks in. Yeah. Gurudas brought him. Yeah, he brought him in, and Ravi Shankar. And I was leading the kirtan. So I'm like, oh, it's a Beatle. Oh, cool. Just singing away. And then we stop. Then Prabhupada starts singing Samsara. Nobody recorded it. It was really, really emotional, real melody. Really nice. And when he finished, he looked at George and he looked at Ravi and he said, "You're both very famous, especially you, George. What is your guarantee for the next life? Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena seva." You must surrender to a bona fide spiritual master. So after they all left, I said to Srila Prabhupada, my faith increased in you so much today. You didn't flatter these people. Such a big, rich people. You just told them the same thing you tell everybody else. So then I was sitting with Prabhupada. Every night he was doing fourth chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. Fourth chapter. And before fourth chapter, he was singing the six Goswami prayers. We would sing the six Goswami prayers, and then he would do his, sit there. So then one evening after, I stayed alone with him in the room, and then he started talking to me. He said, I want you to go back and keep collecting for Vrindavan. I said, Prabhupada, no way, I'm not doing this anymore. He said, you're going to do it, He said, I said, Prabhupada, you know what it took to get that money? I was collecting, well, basically 12 hours a day with 6 hours of sleep. It was 18 hours. We'd start in the morning at 7, end at 9, 13 hours collecting every day. I said, we were working 18 hours a day. 18 hours? I said, our process is 24. And so then I didn't agree with him. The next night he started again. And I said, Prabhupada, why you gave me this sannyas and I can't, and you just told, and I have to go get money. That doesn't mix. And then he quotes Bhagavad-Gita, anasrita karma phalam karyam karma karotiya sasanyasi. He said like that, sasanyasi. One who works as he's obligated and not attached to the result is a sannyasi. He said, that's sannyas. So finally, then he pulled out his ace in the hole, my soft heart, he said, my Guru Maharaj sent me to the West. He ordered me to go to the Western countries, and I've done that. Now I have my own desire. I want to build temples in India, but my Western disciples don't believe in it, and they will not give me any money. I cannot get money, and I want this building. My first service is to translate the books, and I am getting letters and dealing with people, and my head is hot. He said, my head is hot. How will I build this? So then I told him, Srila Prabhupada, from today on, never think of money. I will get the money and you write the books. So then I walked out of the room talking to myself, what the heck did I just say? I'm not going back to America. That was hell, living in a van, getting chased by the security guards in malls everywhere, living with a Coleman stove, eating khichdi every day. So then I go to Mayapur. I'm still thinking about what I'm going to do. And then Gopal Swami here, those that live here know he doesn't come out. He's not healthy. He's staying in MBT. I got wounded in Vietnam, and they sent me to Japan to get operated. And then they sent me back to Vietnam. So I was in Tokyo like 2-3 weeks. So I had some experience at a place. And then when I wanted to get out of India, I wrote Karandar and said, we got no money. Send us a ticket. He said, on one condition, you stop in Tokyo for a month and give association. There's a small temple for like 4 devotees. So we did that. So then I'm sitting there, and since I'd been to Japan, when we were in Tokyo, Trivikram was in charge. And he, if anybody knew Trivikram or knows him, he has wanderlust. He cannot stay in one place, So he said, I want to go, and I said, okay, I got a guy in India, Gopal Swami. He wants out of India. Let him come. We called him up, and he said, yeah, I'll come. I'll be the president. So he came, and, Trivikram left. We left. And then I'm in Mayapur, and now they were building the first building, the Lotus building, and devotees were coming, for the festival. And there was a go-down up in the front. Anybody remember that? There was a go-down right where the front gate is, next to that. It's all been knocked down. And there was a pump. We used to just take our bath there. I lived in the go-down with all the cement bags. And I'm sitting on my porch there, and a bus pulls up, and off comes Gopal. He'd been to Thailand. He had on one of these Thai silk dhotis that wasn't quite matching with sannyas. And I said, I'm going to Japan. So I go to Gopal, can we come to Japan? He said, yeah. So that was that. Then when we went there, we had to figure it out, how to make this collection. I was going out every day until we broke the code. But, so to keep it short, 99% of the crappy stories you heard aren't true. I heard one the other day. We were robbing a jewelry store, and the guy chased us out and fell down and killed himself. And I don't know. There were so many rumors, that we were selling drugs and doing drugs, and nothing like that. Nothing ever happened. I got so tired of it, I came to Mayapur once. It was, I believe it was 77, And Brahmananda asked me, is it true? There some crazy story. I said, boy, you guys, who makes this up? And then I wanted to, okay, let me play too. Boy, you should have seen that bank we robbed the other day. We just had, we had a core of few devotees that were there the whole time. Bhagavad-Gita was there, basically. Maharaj, who left us on his own will up in Radhakund. On his own will. He wasn't sick. He had a broken foot, he left. He told me, I'm going to go. That is what Prabhupada created, someone who is intensely his servant. And he was a great collector for years. Never fell in Maya. Every day. He wasn't the biggest, but he was there and he was steady. Bhanabhata and Bhanu Swami and Pundarik, who's in Alachua. Then we went through 82 people, 2 months, 3 months. Temples wouldn't give any good men, They'd give me the guys they wanted to get rid of. Like here, you probably got a few you'd give me if I asked for a couple men. And, but Prabhupada's mercy was so potent that he'd turn a donkey into a racehorse for a couple months. And they would do fine, and then they'd snap or whatever their problem was, and go away. But 82, Shanti Parayan, Shanti from Hawaii? He counted it for me. He was there for a while. And then we were in the Mayapur festival, and Srila Prabhupada tells Rupanuga to go to Australia. And Rupanuga, he's one of these World War III guys. I don't know what he is now, but then he was. I can't go there. World War III is going to come, and they're going to go take Australia because there's no people, and they can conquer it easy. And so Prabhupada said, who's going to go? I said, I'll go. Same with the China. I'll go. Keep volunteering like an idiot. And so I went. And I didn't like it, and I had to get back to Japan, and I had to go to Hawaii and Fiji. Prabhupada came to this is a good one. He came to Australia. So he says, we were going to New Zealand to install the deities, but they didn't want to give visas to Hare Krishnas due to Siddha Sarup and his people that were giving it a bad name. And they later they had explosives, and somebody blew off his hand. So Prabhupada got a special visa for like a week. And I didn't want to risk it. Being an American, I didn't need a visa. But so I put my karmi clothes on. And my karmi clothes were not your typical karmi clothes, I mean, silk suit, Bali shoes, Frank Sinatra hat, silk shirt, looking good, Kukuine, So the Prabhupada comes down the stairs, and he stops and looks at me, and he said, you look like a gangster. That was funny, So we get to the airport, okay? And so we check in, and then the immigration or the cops or whatever they are, they take me and Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada sits outside. They didn't want him, they wanted me. So Prabhupada sits outside in a chair and take me in the room. So the guy's over at the long table, he's over there, 2 other cops, 3 of them. He says, your passport? So I flung it at him and hit him in the face. And he says, I thought you were religious. I said, if you thought I was religious, I wouldn't be in here. And they checked what they checked, and there's nothing. There was no, I think they were thinking I'm smuggling money, There was nothing. So then when we came out, Srila Prabhupada says to me, what happened? I told him everything except throwing the passport, but I told him, they asked me, looking through my passport, you've been to many countries and many places, so outside of your America, thinking everybody's nationalistic, what is the best? And as far as I'm concerned, as far as I see, they're all the same. People are being born, people are dying, people are struggling to feed their family. What's the difference? Just different country, different thing, but different food, same thing. Prabhupada was so proud. And then in the purport, a few days later, he wrote, the spiritual master becomes very proud. You can see it, you'll find it in the Bhagavatam, when he sees his disciple has given up identification with his land of birth. Then, Prabhupada, Then we went to New Zealand, and then, that was rough, man. I had to do the whole deity installation, and I knew all that stuff then, how to do this stuff, but Prabhupada sat and watched me. The temple was full. So, I go to bathe Jagannath for the installation, and the paint runs. They hadn't dried him yet. The paint was running. So, Prabhupada, the look on his face was so merciful, like, boy, Krishna, please tolerate these people. And so at the end of it, there was like only 8 or 9 devotees, but there was 50 Siddha Sarup people in the room. And it was like Christmas. They all brought Srila Prabhupada a present wrapped up, like Christmas. and he had a stack of packages. So they were all brought up to his room, and it was me and Prabhupada in the room, and I was opening up each package and showing him. And he had 2 piles. You know, that one there, like this. So when we finished, he said, "Oh, that's my pile, that's your pile." So I had all this. I picked out what I wanted, and then went out and gave a prasadam to everybody. Who wants the sweater? Who wants that? You know. So then we went to Fiji, and on the day of the ground installing the Kaliya Krishna in the ground, you know, this is Prabhupada's teaching how he kept doing it. He says, so we were staying at a Vasudev's house. Vasudev was a very rich man. He owned hotels. He owned almost everything, you know, the grocery stores. And he had actually, when he found out, the first time Srila Prabhupada was in transit in Fiji, he found out he's here, and they let him into the transit. And he became Prabhupada's disciple right at that time. So I was the GBC, you know, and I just went and saw him. I said, "You're the GBC. Do what you want. You're a successful businessman. I'm just a kid. I can't tell you anything," you know. And he liked that, you know. So we did that. It was super hot, you know, Fiji. And then we came back to his fancy house. He had 2 wives, you know, a young one and an old one. They all lived together, very pious people. And, you know, Gujarati feast, you know how that's going to be good, you know. They had the little tables and the seats. So Prabhupada sat in the front. And I'm pretty skinny then, you know. And Prabhupada, he looks at me when I come in and he says, "You eat too much." What? You know, I was just like kind of in shock. Eat too much? I didn't eat today, you know. So Prabhupada, you know how he was. Sometimes he'd take 5 bites, sometimes 20 bites, and sometimes no bites, and sometimes he'd eat 1,000 bites. So it wasn't always the same, his appetite. This day he had a big appetite. And he's chowing down, and I'm sitting there as they're serving me thinking, "You eat too much." And I'm like, you know, starving myself. So that was a lesson for later in life, I think, you know. But I remember the next morning, I used to get up at 2 o'clock. So I'm in the shower at 2. And the curtain swings open. And I'm in the shower, and it's Srila Prabhupada standing there. He said, "This is the mode of goodness." And he turns around and walks out. You know? So then I think Shuddha remember this. Remember, you went to Fiji another time with Prabhupada, okay? And then you called me, and you wanted to get to Hawaii. Fiji is a boring place, you know? So you called up and said, "These people keep dragging Prabhupada to all these different houses, and now he wants to extend his ticket because he can't say no to these people. He keeps saying yes." Remember that? And then I said, "Well, let's tell him there's an emergency in Hawaii," and then he has an excuse to say no. So you told him that. And then you were on the plane the next day. So then he did ask me, you know, what was the emergency? And I said, "Oh, probably we miss you. You know, our hearts are breaking." Okay. So then, you know, I'm just saying, all those previous things I talked about were, you know, Prabhupada testing me, training me, did a lot more stuff than just go off to Japan because I had nothing to do. You know, a lot of austerities and being in India and, you know, all over the place. Then Prabhupada wanted that. So, any questions? People have questions sometimes. I don't know. You better ask him. What's the cost?
I can't. All right.
All right. I just know, like in Mayapur, I asked Prabhu, so Vrindavan is done, what do you want me to do? He said, send money to Mayapur. So the long building, the only money they got, every rupee was from our party. Nothing from nobody. Every rupee, you know? And we're sending this money every month. And, you know, the construction's going on at a fast rate. So I come to Mayapur, and Srila Prabhupada comes. And I come down, and we both go out on the balcony, the long hallway outside his room. And Prabhupada's looking at me, and he says, go down there and watch them, because they're stealing the cement. And they're mixing more sand in than cement, and the building won't be strong. So I said, Prabhupada, go tell Bhavananda to do it. He sits up there cutting roses, you know. That's his job. I get the money, and now I got to come here and do his job while he's cutting roses. Tell Jai Bataka, he's not doing nothing either, driving around in his Jeep. I talked to Prabhupada like that, and I'm telling you what I said to him. I said, I'm not doing it, you know, and I went upstairs. I didn't say, you never say you're not doing it, you just don't do it, you know. But you never say to Prabhupada, I'm not going to do it, you know. So at the end of that, there was, all of a sudden, they want $20,000 more. We had our budget, like $300 and some $1,000. Now all of a sudden, then he wants 30 more thousand. And I'm telling him, I wrote Prabhupada, what's he doing with the money? And so we're there, Bhagavad-Gita was there, we bought all the land. All that land. The Pakur, we paid for the Pakur. The Grihastha house, the Prasadam hall. Nobody knows that, because Bhavananda and Jayapataka Swami took all the credit, and they weren't doing anything. Sitting in Mayapur, you know, hogging up the glory. And we didn't say anything. So then Prabhupada wrote him, you know, no more money, what are you doing? And so when we went there, we went to the Grihastha house, and they had like 4 Bengali Matajis. I mean, real older ladies that know how to cook. And we were sitting down to this fabulous food. And after about 5 days, I asked Bhavananda, I said, well, you got a Sankirtan party? And he said, no. Then I said, oh, so you're taking from the construction money and living, you know, living like kings on the construction money. And I'm in Japan eating soybean oil and peanuts. It's true. Isn't it, Bana? We didn't eat outside. I had psychic tuition. Somebody come in from the streets, and I go, you ate an apple today. How did you know? You know? We didn't spend anything. Everything went to Prabhupada. In Hawaii once, you know, somebody gave $20, put it at Prabhupada's feet. I took the 20 and put it in my pocket, because you don't want it sitting there. Went upstairs, and I'm in the brahmachari room, which wasn't the brahmachari room at that time. I mean, yes, it was, but not officially. Then Prabhupada sends, I don't know who his servant was. Maybe it was you, or, you know, where's my $20? And I'd just given him like 80 grand or something that morning. I was like, where's my 20? Everything was Krishna's. Everything was Krishna's. So one time I gave Prabhupada $108,000. It was for Janmashtami. We'd collected. I came and I gave him my receipt. I used to put it in his bank account. You know? I'd give it to the BBT. And I had to smuggle money. If I'd have gotten caught smuggling that money every month, I'd have gotten 10 years in jail. But we were smuggling, I had to smuggle a briefcase to Hong Kong to change it into dollars, and then I could send it to India. That's the only option, you know? And then all of a sudden, because I was paying the BBT and they were they were sending that money to Prabhupada, they weren't sending it. And we're checking, 20,000's missing, 30,000. Rameshwar was stealing it. You don't know anything about ISKCON. It wasn't no bed of roses. There was some evil guys in there stealing Prabhupada's Vrindavan money, channeling it some other place, just like the Democrats are doing in America, channeling it to everywhere. Yeah.
There's 20 minutes left whenever you want to give it a little couple minutes to. I know, I'm fine.
Yeah, I understand. Anyway, I better change it before I start upsetting the cart.